What first got me looking for the truth in Hollywood was this movie, The Man Who Would Be King, starring Sean Connery and Michael Caine. Aside from the obvious illuminist and Masonic overtones, there seemed to be a strange undercurrent. It was almost as if Rudyard Kipling was trying to tell you more than it seemed, but simultaneously exercising restraint. I became convinced that he had embedded a deeper, darker story, so I watched The Man Who Would Be King again with sharper, a little bit more sensitive eyes. And since I was on the lookout for a deeper story, and since Rudyard Kipling provided one, I found one. I noticed how it seemed to be the story of a false messiah coming to earth, being mistaken for a divine being, ruling, and eventually being judged and exposed. I found it interesting, and I must admit a bit baffling, that Rudyard Kipling, being an Illuminati insider, would tell the story so that Satan and the Antichrist, if that's indeed who they were, weren't heroes. Because of course you'd expect the Satanist to make a hero out of the one he worships. So instead of depicting them as heroes,
what the Masons call our hidden masters. That's what Freemasonry refers to, those who lead world Freemasonry. They don't know who they are. No Freemason knows who the actual leaders of the world organization are. They call them our hidden masters. Well, according to the reference works, there is a little spiritual entity that guides the world Freemasonry, and they call him Yoda. And in the reference works, you'll see this little creature with the pointed ears, and he's called Yota. Yota goes back to Judah, or Judah, which goes back into British Israel World Freemasonry, going back to the time of the founding of England.
now George Lucas making a hero out of this character obviously didn't raise the eyebrows of most, but it did mine. I was taken back by the fact that the descriptions were the same, the name was the same, the fact that he was regarded as this Pez dispenser of wisdom. So I thought that there must be something to Star Wars too, or at least something more. And that's when I remembered that, according to the Muslims, the Antichrist likes to hang out with a big furry creature. A creature so hairy that one Jesus Christ. And then, knowing the Illuminati like to reuse actors, I looked into the profile of Pernilla August, which was the woman that George Lucas chose to play Darth Vader's mother. And it turns out that she played as Mary in The Mother of Jesus in a movie with that same name, Mary, Mother of Jesus, that same year. Well, by now I'm thinking, damn, George, give us a little credit, man. We're not all retarded. And I don't know what Star Wars fans usually do with their Sundays, but I can tell you what they don't usually do with their Sundays. And it's actually kind of sad that I was the first to notice all this, not being a Bible thumper or a Star Wars fan or anything. And I can't shake the fact that suspicion that George Lucas had to wait, a while for the Star Wars prequels, because there was no way that the people of the 70s and early 80s would have missed all the Jesus Christ slash Darth Vader connections. It's like he had to wait for a generation who knew nothing about Jesus in order to put out the last three movies that he did. Either way, it ended up being a huge piece of the puzzle. And guys, on a personal note, I was never quite signs, clues, all these things are typical of the psychopath. Scarier still is the fact that I'm not exactly a movie buff. Before doing this documentary, I had only seen one of the six Star Wars, none of the Harry Potters, only the first two Matrixes, never saw Dogma, had only vague memories of Stargate, and had never even heard of the Man Who Would Be King or the Road to El Dorado. So I can only imagine how many copies of this story must be still out there, and I've already found a few since making this, but I just don't have a documentary to back it all up. Now, let's look at the details. Here's a quick look at all the various characters that I managed to identify. I'm not sure about all of them, and some do seem to play a dual role, but I think I've nailed them for the most part. Now, first we have Azazel, and this is the one that always decides to stay. Neo from the Matrix seems to play a dual role as Azazel and Samyaza. I haven't quite figured it out yet, but I don't know. Now here's Samyaza, and this is the one that always wants to go back home. Further, it appears that at some point he will come into conflict with Azazel. Samyaza in the Book of Enoch is described as the leader of the fallen angels, by the way. Now here's every copy of Jesus Christ, and what's interesting about how Jesus Christ is depicted is that there isn't really consensus. Sometimes he's portrayed as a tyrant, and other times he's a nice guy. So it's kind of weird because you'd think that Satanists would have nothing nice to say. Rudyard Kipling depicts Jesus as a nice guy, but in Star of all. And he spoke of as God the way monotheistic religions speak of as God, the one and only God. However, Umbra is from the Necronomicon. He's a high-ranking demon who during a satanic ritual will appear as a giant, whose specialties are moving money from one place to another, in other words, bringing money to you and winning the hearts of women. And lastly, we have Yoda, who apparently plays as himself. And it appears George Lucas was being flattering because he doesn't look like the cuddly little creature that George depicted him as. And that creature to the right doesn't look too godly either. You know, if this hairy creature is the only link between the men who run this world and God, we're in a lot of trouble, folks. And that's about it, folks. I'd like to use this opportunity to thank guys like Alex Jones and David Icke and the many others who risk their lives every day to tell us the truth. And I'm personally, I'm proud to have become part of the great revealing that is happening in our time. And now it's time